In global diplomacy, a single phone call can shift the balance of power. Behind closed doors, these conversations can set the tone for international relations, influencing decisions that ripple across continents. When Russian President Vladimir Putin called Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on August 23, 2025, it was more than routine. It was a strategic move, carefully calculated to send a message not just to India, but to the world. Putin briefed Modi on his 10th summit with former US President Donald Trump, highlighting the direct line between Moscow and New Delhi. This rare level of transparency underscored the trust and importance both leaders place on their relationship. The US has criticized India for maintaining economic ties with Russia, especially its continued import of Russian oil. Washington's pressure has only grown as the Ukraine conflict drags on, making every decision by New Delhi subject to global scrutiny. Yet Putin's call reinforced the Russia-India partnership, signaling to the world that their alliance remains strong despite Western pressure. The conversation was a public display of unity, a reminder that old alliances can adapt to new realities. For India, the call was a chance to reaffirm its independent foreign policy and urge dialogue over the Ukraine conflict. Modi emphasized India's commitment to peace, while also protecting its own national interests. India's unique position allows it to engage candidly with both Moscow and Washington, refusing to be drawn into a zero-sum game. This balancing act is central to India's global strategy, giving it leverage on the world stage. The timing was crucial, coming just after Trump rejected new trade talks with India, straining US-India ties. The diplomatic setback made Putin's outreach even more significant, offering India an alternative path. Putin's outreach reminded India it has powerful friends beyond the West. This reassurance strengthens India's hand in future negotiations, both with Russia and the United States. This dynamic illustrates the complex power play on the global stage, where alliances are constantly reassessed. Every gesture, every call, is weighed for its strategic value. Leaders like Putin exploit divisions, ensuring their influence remains strong. By keeping multiple channels open, they maintain flexibility and control. In this high-stakes environment, every conversation counts. The world watches, knowing that sometimes history is made in a single phone call. Donald Trump's refusal to pursue trade talks with India has sent shockwaves through the international economic community, raising concerns among global investors and policymakers alike. Rooted in his America First ideology, Trump accuses India of imposing unfair tariffs and maintaining an imbalanced trade relationship that disadvantages American businesses and workers. This tough stance isn't new. During his presidency, Trump suspended India's preferential trade status under the Generalized System of Preferences and imposed retaliatory tariffs on a range of Indian goods, escalating tensions between the two countries. By prioritizing trade disputes over nurturing a strategic partnership, Trump risks alienating India, a key counterweight to China's growing influence in Asia and beyond. Strong economic ties are essential for any lasting alliance, and pushing India away could drive it closer to Russia or even China, shifting the balance of power in the region. Indian officials argue their tariffs are necessary to protect a developing economy and safeguard millions of livelihoods, especially in agriculture, while many U.S. products already enjoy significant market access in India. The U.S. demand for sweeping liberalization is seen as a direct threat to India's farmers and small businesses, fueling protests and political resistance at home. This ongoing deadlock stalls progress on a long-awaited free trade agreement and creates uncertainty for investors, businesses, and workers on both sides. The persistent friction over trade remains a major obstacle to building a resilient and mutually beneficial US-India alliance. Trump's hardline approach, while popular with his domestic base, complicates delicate diplomacy and opens the door for global competitors to strengthen their own ties with India. In a world of shifting alliances and rising economic rivalries, disputes like these can have far-reaching strategic consequences that extend well beyond trade. The U.S. risks losing ground on the global stage if it fails to see the bigger picture and adapt its approach to changing realities. India defends its continued import of Russian oil as a matter of national interest. With 1.4 billion citizens, energy security is non-negotiable. Russian crude, often discounted, is vital for India's growth. Indian officials point out that many European nations also bought Russian energy after the Ukraine conflict, yet India faces disproportionate criticism. This perceived double standard has only strengthened India's resolve to pursue an independent foreign policy. Prime Minister Modi frames the issue as protecting India's most vulnerable, especially farmers reliant on affordable fuel. By linking energy policy to citizens' well-being, the government garners strong domestic support. India's stance signals growing confidence and a willingness to chart its own course, even at the cost of diplomatic friction. The message is clear: India will not compromise on its core interests. Isolated by Western sanctions, Russia has been compelled to pivot strategically to the east, seeking new partners and opportunities to counterbalance its growing estrangement from the West. At the heart of this shift is India, a nation with its own global ambitions and a history of balancing relations with major powers. Putin's direct communication with Modi is emblematic of a broader Russian effort to build a coalition that can challenge Western dominance and create a multipolar world order. Russia actively leverages forums like BRICS, as well as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, to expand its influence, foster new alliances, and develop alternatives to Western-led financial and political systems. The Russia-India partnership now extends well beyond traditional diplomacy, encompassing trade, defense cooperation, and the creation of new payment mechanisms that bypass Western sanctions and restrictions. Moscow respects India's strategic autonomy, allowing New Delhi to pursue its own interests without external interference, which stands in stark contrast to the West's often prescriptive and demanding approach. Putin's call to Modi after the Trump summit allowed him to present Russia's narrative directly, reinforcing trust and transparency between the two leaders. This proactive and flexible diplomacy ensures that India remains multi-aligned, skillfully resisting international pressure to pick sides in the ongoing global power struggle. For Russia, a strong, independent India is not just a partner, but a crucial asset in its competition with the US and the broader Western alliance. Ultimately, Russia's pivot eastward is both a necessity born of current circumstances and a carefully considered long-term strategy for global relevance. India and Russia share a partnership built on decades of trust and strategic alignment. Despite Western pressure, their relationship has only deepened, especially in defense. Russian technology forms the backbone of India's military. This is more than a buyer-seller dynamic. It's joint research, development, and production. Economic ties are also growing, with increased energy trade and efforts to diversify into new sectors. Initiatives like the International North-South Transport Corridor promise to boost connectivity and trade. The personal rapport between Modi and Putin keeps the partnership resilient and adaptive. In a world of shifting alliances, the India-Russia relationship stands out for its depth and consistency. India is performing a complex diplomatic balancing act, managing ties with both Russia and the US. Russia is a traditional partner for defense and energy. The US is vital for trade, technology, and Indo-Pacific security. China's assertiveness adds another layer, pushing India to maintain strong ties with both Washington and Moscow. Every major decision, defense purchases, UN votes, military exercises, is weighed for its impact on these relationships. India's purchase of Russian S-400 missiles risked US sanctions, while Quad participation can irk Moscow. India asserts its strategic autonomy, making decisions based on its own interests. The goal: avoid being drawn into rigid blocks and remain a leading power in a multipolar world. This balancing act is a long-term strategy, not a temporary fix. India leverages all relationships to secure its future and regional stability. Navigating this tightrope is essential for India's rise. At the heart of India's foreign policy is an unwavering commitment to national interest, India first. Every decision, from trade to defense, is evaluated through the lens of what benefits India and its people. This pragmatic approach explains India's continued engagement with Russia, despite Western criticism. Modi's government prioritizes energy security and military preparedness, even if it means enduring trade friction with the US. India refuses to choose between Russia and the US, maximizing its options and strategic flexibility. As a rising power, India seeks to shape global norms, not just follow them. Its foreign policy is independent, multi-aligned, and rooted in a clear-eyed assessment of its needs. National interest is the key to understanding India's diplomatic maneuvers. Personal diplomacy between leaders can make or break international partnerships. The rapport between Modi and Putin exemplifies how trust and direct communication sustain the India-Russia relationship. Putin's personal call to Modi after the Trump summit was both strategic and respectful, reinforcing their partnership. Leader-to-leader diplomacy often achieves more than formal channels, allowing for candor and quick problem-solving. Modi invests in personal relationships with world leaders, creating goodwill that helps manage disagreements. While national interests drive policy, personal bonds provide the lubrication for smooth international relations. The Modi-Putin connection is a key reason the India-Russia partnership remains strong. The interactions between Modi, Putin, and Trump reveal the reality of a multipolar world. The era of a single superpower is over. Now, multiple centers of power compete and cooperate. India no longer has to choose sides. It can engage all major powers simultaneously. This requires agile diplomacy and building issue-based coalitions, not rigid alliances. India's multi-alignment, strong with Russia, growing with the US, pragmatic with China, is a deliberate strategy. By keeping options open, India advances its interests on many fronts, from energy to security. The US must accept that partners like India won't always align perfectly. For India, flexibility and diverse partnerships are the keys to thriving in this complex landscape. Its foreign policy is a model for rising powers navigating uncertainty. The Modi-Putin-Trump dynamic is a preview of 21st century geopolitics.